Today, we're going to crack open the playbook of two absolutely incredible leaders from the world of law. We're going to break down how they got to the top, their go-to strategies, and their advice on, well, everything from handling criticism to navigating the AI revolution. So let's dive in. So let's just start with the big question, right? How do leaders actually get to the top? What does it really take to reach the pinnacle of a super demanding field like law? Is it all about ambition? Or is it a sense of duty? Or maybe something else entirely? We're about to look at two very different answers to that very question. Okay, so meet our case studies for today. On one side, we have Catherine Hanaway. She's the former Missouri Attorney General, was the first female Speaker of the House in Missouri, and a U.S. attorney appointed by President George W. Bush. Total powerhouse. And on the other side, we have Stephanie Lindquist, the Dean of Washington University's School of Law. She's the one who steered that school right into the prestigious top 14 and is now seen as a true pioneer in legal AI. So yeah, two giants, two very different paths to the top. Now, what's really fascinating to me is where these incredible journeys actually started. Because it wasn't in some high-powered boardroom. Now, it was in places you might not expect at all, which reveals some pretty surprising things about where powerful leaders come from. So get this, Attorney General Hanaway, she grew up in rural Nebraska and Iowa, and she actually says that small-town life gave her this can-do attitude. You know, where you could do everything from edit the yearbook to play basketball. It basically taught her to just jump in and take risks. Now contrast that with Dean Lindquist. She grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, literally across the street from a farm. And for her, that experience instilled a totally different core value. Humility. So you've got two different rural upbringings, but two really foundational lessons in leadership. So what is it that lights that initial spark? What's the core motivation that pushes someone from a small town all the way to the national stage? Let's take a look at what they say is their driving force. For Attorney General Hanaway, it really was a calling. She kind of describes it as being in her DNA. Like if someone asked for volunteers, her hand would just shoot up without her even thinking about it. This really deep-seated belief in public service, which for her is rooted in her faith, was the fuel for her entire career. And then you have this, which is such a brilliant illustration of a different kind of motivation. For Dean Lindquist, it was a competitive fire. She just wanted to be number one, editor of the law review, at the top of her class, you name it. It was this internal competitive impulse that really pushed her forward. It just goes to show you, the path to the top can be paved with very different intentions. Okay, so you've got the motivation, you've got the drive. But how in the world do you handle the insane pressure that comes with the job? For that, we need to open up the leader's playbook. Here's a really powerful idea, and it's central to both of their playbooks. When you're in these high-stakes roles, criticism is just constant. The natural human instinct is to build a wall, right? To protect yourself. But they argue that the best way to handle it is to completely reframe it. To see criticism not as an attack, but as a gift. But, and this is key, they process that gift differently. The Attorney General's advice is to develop a really thick skin for the purely political partisan attacks. But at the same time, you have to actively seek out realistic feedback from people you trust, even your political opponents. The Dean's approach is to actively find the value in all of it. She sees constructive feedback as a vital tool for getting better. And she really stresses how dangerous it is to only surround yourself with people who agree with you. All right, let's pivot and look to the future. Both of these leaders have made artificial intelligence a huge priority. And this isn't just about them chasing the latest trend. It's about navigating a fundamental, ground-shaking shift in the entire legal profession. And well, there's your bottom line. Dean Lindquist puts it so bluntly. The threat isn't that AI is going to replace lawyers. The threat is that lawyers who master AI will replace the ones who don't. It's all about adaptation. She's crystal clear that law schools have to be on the front edge of this wave, not trying to scramble up the back of it. And this right here is the tightrope every leader in this space has to walk. On one side, you have these massive opportunities, right? AI can automate all the tedious work, which could make legal services way faster and more accessible for everybody. But on the other side, the risks are just as huge. I'm talking about sophisticated new ways to commit fraud, like deepfakes, and the enormous challenge of regulating a technology that doesn't care about borders. The playbook here is all about embracing innovation without ever losing sight of the need for careful, smart governance. So what does all of this mean for you, for aspiring leaders out there?
Well, we've basically distilled their decades of experience into some clear, actionable steps that you can start using right now.
Okay, so here's the three-part guide. First up, be willing to take calculated risks. Both of our leaders stress this. Real growth only happens when you say yes to something that feels just a little bit beyond your reach. Second, don't ever be afraid to ask for help. Seriously, your employer, your team, they're invested in you and they want you to succeed. So you have to speak up about what you need. And finally, and this might be the most important piece of advice, lead from where you are. Don't wait for a fancy title. Leadership is an action you can take today in any role you're in. So when it's all said and done, what's it all for? What's the real legacy? For Attorney General Hanaway, it's not a policy she wrote or a court case she won. It's the people she mentored, the people she helped along the way, giving them that little leg up they needed to go on and build their own amazing careers. And that brings us to the final question, the one that turns this all back to you. Their stories make it really clear that leadership is built on a series of risks, some big, some small. So when you look at your own path, what's a risk you are willing to take to get where you want to go?